Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again with some more beautiful Just Duel game development. One sec, I'm making sure I have the right microphone selected. Alright, we are good. Once again, we're listening to the lo-fi hip-hop beats because we're a coder and all coders do that. It is required. If you remember, in the last video, I explained the basic setup we were going when it comes to making our spells. In this video, we're going to be going through and I'm going to show you all of the scripts that are for these spells. So for two reasons actually. One, so that you kind of understand what I'm talking about, and two, so that I kind of understand what I'm talking about. It's been quite a few months, actually, since I made these scripts. So I've forgotten most of them. Anyway, so we're going to start with the action input. The idea with this one is that we have a circle, and the circle always represents the player who is using the script. This magic setup sort of has what does it have in mind? It has that there's it's like multiplayer, I guess. At least when I first made it, I was anticipating making the game multiplayer. So there's always this context of circles and squares. Circles representing the player and the squares representing the other or the target. Although in some of these scripts, now that I'm remembering, target can refer to either of these. It's just whichever that the spell is meant to apply to. Anyway, let's pop open the script and see what we're dealing with. We have an on click. Right. Script read input. After Visual Studio is completed with its loading sequence. Oh, Pro Builder. Okay, let's see what we got here. First thing, I'm going to just close out of all these extra ones. It looks like we inherit from something called trigger, so let's open that up. Go to definition. We'll just slide it over here. And it looks like this inherits from something called a spell piece SO, so let's open that. Go to definition, and we'll slide it right there. So we have an abstract void, use, but as you can see it doesn't do anything, and that's because everything that inherits from this overrides this void. Here, actually, I should be able to see it in the trigger, which is what inherits from spell piece SO. Anyway, in use for our trigger, we get in parent base dot use. Okay. So it looks like for all trigger objects, or the input reading objects, it's assumed that they are the child of the base object. And if you remember in the last video, we talked about the base. It's either a circle or a line. Circle meaning that it's a repeating spell, and line base meaning that it's a linear spell. Just for fun, we can open this up. Go to base. Ha! What a pun. Go to definition. And let's see where it talks about triggers, or if it talks about triggers in the base. So first thing, we'll look up trigger. So for each trigger T in get component and children trigger, debot.log, player signed to trigger. Okay. Looks like we also anticipated that there are multiple triggers. Oh, that's kind of a neat idea. So the way this is set up is, I believe in this function, we're going through the list of spell pieces, and we are assigning variables. And in this, we are assigning what is the target and what is the player to the trigger. But in reality, this script probably doesn't go on anything. But since input read and out inherits from trigger, base will think that it's talking to trigger, but in reality it's talking to this. And that's how kind of inheritance works a little bit, because it inherits from trigger. This is trigger plus some extra stuff. Anyway, so trigger gets the player and the target may be the player itself, but right now we're going to probably assume that the target is the opponent. Anyway, let's see what we got going on here. Player listen inputs, target listen inputs. Strange. Okay. I have an idea what these are, but let's see how they're applied. Read input I and player input inputs. If animator attack equals I minus 1. This minus 1, I think, this might not be necessary, because I think we were misunderstanding when we wrote that. Okay, so we might have to delete that, but I'm not sure. I'm going to add a note for now. So note -1, bunch of question marks. And we can come back to that if we notice that the input reading doesn't work. Debot.log, here we go again. We can probably comment that out. Actually, we'll use this to our advantage, and we'll say, what is this part called? This is the player, we want it in quotes, player animator int equals, and then we say I dot toString. Not I. Yes, I dot toString. Put it in some parentheses, I believe. For each integer I. Yeah, I don't know why it's upset. Cannot convert string to Unity object. It's an integer though. Doesn't like that for some reason. I don't know why it's not letting me access this I right here. Oh, I see. After you're done writing your string with quotations, you're supposed to add a plus. So plus I dot toString. And voila, it works perfectly now, I assume. Okay, so for each integer I in PLI, and then if player.getComponentAnimator, so if the animator's attack, integer attack, which I don't know if the animator's open, but I can open it real fast so that you see what it's talking about. If it ever finishes, I'm going to go to Window, Animation, Animator. So, check this out. We have all of these guys. We have slash left right, we have slash right left, and we have spin attack. And potentially eventually trimmed roll will also be controlled by an integer attack. So, I believe what this is saying is if we ever attack and that attack's integer, which is this thing right here, matches PLI I minus 1, which I don't know why the minus 1 is there. If it matches with I, then it will do this. It'll do the use function. Okay. Let's see what else is going on here. And is going is equal to false, and I is not equal to current action. What is current action? Public int current action. Let's see if the base talks to it about its current action. Okay, looks like current action. Oh. Okay. Okay, I see. Current action right here. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure this negative minus 1 can go away, so I'm going to delete it, but I'll leave the note and the debug in case something goes wrong later. Okay, so here's what this current action thing does. Basically, this is in the update method, as you can see, which means if we were to, this is a trigger object, and for as long as the animator equals, let's say 1 right here, or this attack is equal to 1, then as long as it's doing that, the use function is going to keep getting called over and over and over and over every single frame. This right here sets it so that it only happens once. Because as soon as we get, as soon as we get set to 0, current action, or let's say we're searching, I is supposed to be 1, and current action is currently at its 0, then current action will then be set to 1, or set equal to I, and the use function gets called, but it doesn't get called again. Okay, so that's just a neat little trick, I guess. So, this reads the input of our player, and then if the player's input ever happens, we use the use function. And then the same is true for the target. So this target assumes that whatever we are targeting has the same animator, or at least has the same attack thing. So we'll try to remember that for when we're making enemies. They have to use the same attack variable in order for this magic to work on them. Okay, and then what else is going on? If is going is equal to true, and player.componentAnimator.integer attack is not equal to PLI current action minus 1. I don't know if we need the minus 1 there, but we'll leave it. Actually, we'll just get rid of it and say we changed it. So we'll make a comment here that says this. We'll just copy that. So that if we ever run into a problem, we can just come back, see how it was before, and fix it. Then we'll copy that to right there. This might be silly, and I might have to come back and fix all of these again. But I'm pretty sure we don't need to check if the triggers are -1. I think that was a mistake we made before. Oh, wait. If isGoing is equal to true, and player.getComponentAnimator.getInteger is equal to current action. isGoing is equal to false. Current action equals -1. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so you might be wondering what this does. These control these bools right here. It seems if isGoing is equal to true and it's not equal to isGoing is going to be equal to false. Okay, so you might be wondering to yourself what this all does. Basically, this checks isGoing, which means our target or our player is acting, is doing this action, the animator attack. It's doing an attack, basically. And when the attack no longer, which is what !equals means, when it no longer equals the current action, then this sets isGoing to false and the current action equal to -1. To be honest, we could probably set, and the reason why we set this to -1 instead of to something like 0 is because 0 is actually an action we can take. I believe it just sets it to the default. So 0 is an off-limits number. The one lower than that is -1. So this basically just resets the current action to blank. It's just waiting for our player or our target to do another action. All right. Now that we're done with that, we have some stuff. We have add to PLI and add to TLI. Okay, so these right here are for the prefab. Also, I don't know why the animator is down here. I like it right there. This is for the prefab. This is for the button and the UI stuff, I mean. So, in here, we have to figure out a way to like add maybe some buttons around or add an input field so that the player can type in a number or a set of numbers that will go in the PLI and TLI, and those will become the numbers that we check up here. That way you try to read the other player or our own player's input. So you might be wondering, why do we need to read our own player's input and why do we need to read the other player's input? Well, basically, reading your own input will allow you to say, okay, when I'm using a sword and I want to be able to shoot a laser beam out of the sword when I perform my slash left to right. And so this, you would have to monitor your own player's inputs, or your own player's, your own player's inputs. And it may or may not be super efficient to actually check the animator itself. because that just might be inefficient. It might be smarter to check the direct inputs from the new input system. But for right now, we won't change it. If it becomes a problem later, then we will use the animator. We will not use player.getComponent animator. We will access the player's input system. But now that I'm thinking about it, we may run into a problem. If we use something other than the animator, it will work if we're doing multiplayer, potentially. But it won't work if we're fighting a boss, because bosses don't have inputs, but they do have animations. So we would always be able to access the animator. Animator might be less efficient, but I'm not sure. So we'll leave it. Okay. Then we have the use function. And, you know, I'm not really seeing anything that the use function does, which means we're using this use function. Oh, okay, never mind, this makes sense. So the trigger. It's a trigger. It triggers this. It triggers the base. And then the base, I believe, will trigger everything else. But wait a second. The base... Okay, we might have found a problem. The base has to talk to the trigger so that the trigger knows what the player and the target is, but then the base only gets triggered to do that by the trigger. Okay, so in order for the trigger to work, the base has to have an update method somewhere. Okay, so we're looking for an update method. Or something that gives the player and the, well, actually, huh. Yeah, so that's what this script is missing. It's missing a way to acquire these two variables. Now, how are we going to give it those variables? I'm not sure. I'm going to add it to the list, and we can deal with it later, maybe? No, let's just try and fix it now. Well, let's see how the base will get both the player and the target. Player equals transform.root. So we'll get the player on the awake function. How about the target? Reach. If target is equal to null, what is E? Oh, E is the executable pieces. What is this? Make list thing? Okay. It looks like that our base doesn't get the target on its own. It looks like it's expecting to have the target given and assigned in the top. need to make another check. We're gonna have to check if the target is not equal to null. Because our target is, we can't check the target.getComponent animator unless we actually have a target. And since this is in the update function right here, and this for each trigger T and blah blah blah, do the fill in the target and the player, is not in the update function, then the target, because this is in just like a make list function and it only has one reference, which is that, the start. Okay, so it looks like whenever we change targets, we're going to want to call this script, this particular void right here. Okay. What does that mean? It means we need to find the targeting script. So, let's go to our project. Luckily, I'm pretty sure I know where this one is. Prefabs, our character. And now we are looking for our test magic script. And right here, we have the target finder thing and the target. So this is the script that finds the target. Let's see if it's working. Where's our character? Right here. Let's get out of... Where's my gizmos? Or my... Oh, I'm in 2D mode. Yay. Tagged as an enemy. I believe I should have a targeting script already made that allows our character to target lock onto things. So we're gonna really quick go find our player again, and we want to see if this fills in the target variable. We would press T. Okay. Looks like we got a targeting variable. Target does fill in. As you can see, if you look right here, target, and it has the capsule. That capsule is indeed the one we were targeting. Okay. And just also as a check, let's untarget, and it clears it. Nice. Okay, but it does have a little bit of a glitch. Anyway, we're not worried about if the targeting script has kind of a glitch there, because if I untarget and then I press T, like looking in that direction, nothing happens until... Okay. Anyway, that's a bug to fix for another day. Collider change and capsule. We have a target. Now we want to figure out when this target gets like filled in. We want to access our base. Yes, our base script and or our trigger, but I think we're going to want the base script. And we want to call this void right here. So, what's next? We gotta pop this script open. And let's make a new void. We are going to want to check first if there even is a spell ready to go. So we're going to need a reference. A public transform. And what is this transform called? It will be called base parent. So the parent of the base. Because we want to, the base may or may not be there, so we can't reference it directly. Unless we actually have something there. So we're going to make a private variable, and we'll call it the base. We check the base parent to see if it has any children, and if it does, we fill in the base as the base. First thing is first, start method. We want to check the base if we have a base at the start. So, but I guess we're going to have to do this multiple times. Okay, let's do this. We have a void. Probably going to need to be a public void. And what is this going to be called? It's going to be a base check. And we are going to say base parent get component and children. And we're going to say base. And I believe this is just, oh, it had a reference before. What was the first reference? Oh, the trigger telling it, the base, to do the use function. Okay. Base, parentheses. What do we want it to do? We want the base. Oh, nope. We just want to check if it has it. So, actually, we don't want this here. We're going to take it and Control X to cut it. And then we're going to say if, parentheses, Control V to paste in what we just typed in. Base parent dot get component and children, greater than, less than symbols, base between them. And then parentheses. And then we say is not equal to null. So basically, if there is a child of the base parent that, you know, is the base, that has the base component, then it's not equal to null. Okay, and I lied up here. We have a transform base. We don't actually want a transform base. We want just base. Base, and we'll make this one lowercase. Base. Or base 1, because it doesn't like that for some reason. And now we say base 1, or base, capital B, dot, or not dot, just space, base 1 equals And then we copy the if statement thing. Get component and children base. I just thought of something. What if we want to have multiple spells on the same weapon? Which means we would have multiple bases. Okay. Fine. We'll include it. What we'll do, we'll keep everything the same, except where it says if it's not equal to null, then we'll do a for each statement. So, for each we'll say, I lied. We're not going to say that. We're going to put it up above the if statement that we just made earlier. We're going to put the for each statement. So we're going to say for each, parentheses, transform t in, not target, but we'll fill it in and then put in base parent. If I knew how to delete stuff. In base parent. For each transform t in base parent, we want to get component. We can actually switch this up a little bit. We're going to do the weird curly parentheses that I forgot the name of. Then we're going to move everything into the for each statement tab to make it look pretty. Okay, and now we have to say if t dot get component, I guess we could say in children, but for now we'll just say get component. If t dot get component base is not equal to null, then we'll set base 1 to t. So you don't need that. Just need a t. Oh, no. T dot get component base. So copy, and we'll just paste that in right there. T dot get component base. Voila, it's beautiful. Now, even if we had a million spells on one object, as long as they were all children of the same object, we would be able to access all of them and fill in what the target is at any moment. Or hopefully we'll be able to do that. Oh, just broke something. Control Z to fix. Okay, now once we have our base component, we want to tell it what target is, and then run that one script. So what's that one script called? That one script is make list thing. Okay, and it's already public, which is nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to say base 1 dot target is going to equal target. It's upset at me for some reason. Okay, looks like one of these is a game object and one of them is a transform. Which one is which? This one is a game object, so we only need the transform, so we'll just say dot transform. base1 target equals transform, or target.transform, or base1 dot target equals target.transform. Beautiful. And now we can tell it to make the list. Make the list thingy. So, base1 dot make the list thing, parentheses, ending 2 dots, top of winky face symbol. I don't know what it's called. Okay. Now we have a beautiful thing. But as you can see, we have 0 references to the base check thing that we just made. So we want this to happen 2 places. We want it to happen at the start, and we want to happen every time we do a target. I just remembered this thing has a player. Does it fill in the player? Yes, it does. It automatically does that. But we don't need it to. This is unnecessary. This is kind of something that makes sloppy code, because we have the script finding the player on its own and then accessing another script to find a different player on its own. In my head, it makes sense just to delete this. Control KC. I'll just comment it out for now in case there's something pretty silly that I am forgetting right now. And what we're going to do is we are going to come to the base check and we will fill in what the player is as well. So we'll say base1. Nope. If I could type base1 dot player equals player, and I assume it's going to want to transform. Yep. Base1 dot player equals player dot transform. Perfect. And then it makes the list. And now, base check. We want this to happen in the start, which is right here. So we'll just go to the start method, type in base check, like that. Save it, because, you know. And now, where is our targeting stuff? Okay, update thing. What triggers this? Any update methods? Nope, just the input system. Wait, why does the input system reference this twice? Whatever. Out of the scope of this video. And of what I want to care about today. Update thing. This is what seems to be where we assign the target. No? Yes? No. But target finder thing set active to true. That's a game object that contains like a trigger. Basically, this is what finds our target. And I assume it's also what sets the target here. but I don't really want to go mess with that. I want to figure out a way to make it work here. Somewhere in the update thing. But I don't want to think that hard. So let's find this target finder thing. I believe it's just an object attached to the camera. So let's go to the camera. And actually, maybe we'll just go to the prefab and then find the camera so we don't have to go digging around too much. Target finder object. Okay, target. TMS test magic script. Test bool 1 equals true. So if the other tag equals enemy, then we're good. And pretty easily, all we have to do is we have to set TMS dot, what was the thing called? Base test. Base check. That was close. TMS base check. And we'll do a little mini test real quick. When it performs the base check, we're going to do a debug dot log parentheses. Oh, I totally forgot to put a message. We'll just say base checking. All right, and now we are going to want to fill in the parent thing, base parent. What are we going to even put there? Well, this is where things get complicated. Or where another pointless decision has to be made. We have some options. Never mind, I decided. We no longer have any options. There's one choice. I think what we're gonna do... Oh, never mind. You know what we can do? We can come to our prefab and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an empty object. Create empty, and this will be our spell parent, or our base parent. Nice. No, that's not going to be how it works. Here's the dilemma I'm going through. The way we have it set up right now. UI prefabs and magic. Here's our words. We see them. We have an action input button thing, and as an input, read and out. This is our trigger thing that we were looking at. This is a UI element. But in order for it to, function, it has to be set active. I do not want to have the spell visible constantly. Oh. But maybe we can. But maybe we can't. Well, it's a UI element, so that means it has to go in the UI. And it has to stay active constantly, except maybe when we're at an interactable object, which means it's going to have to be part of the HUD. That means, I guess, what we're going to do is going to go to our prefabs again, to our player, to our canvas, to our HUD, which is going to be set active constantly. I don't know why it's not. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. I bet it turns on whenever we go into play mode. No, it doesn't. One sec. Sorry, I'm doing a test. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm testing other things. Looks like everything works. Okay. Anyway, HUD is always set active. So I suppose what we could do is we could just have a tiny little corner that shows what spells are active at the moment. Which would be kind of annoying if you had multiple spells, because they would just kind of layer on top of each other. But for now, I don't care. We are simply just going to layer them all on top of each other if we end up deciding to have multiple. So, top right corner looks pretty empty, and so does right here. These things are way too big. They need to go. Whatever. This isn't important. Let's create an empty. So UI, is there a UI empty? No, just create empty. And this is our active spell folder. Or we'll call it a base parent, just so we don't get the naming confused. Spell base parent. And we'll just Shift, Alt, and click top right. And we want it kind of visible, so we'll try to make it the same size as the health bar, which I'm going to guess is, well, I guess we can just straight up check how big it is. 700. Okay. 700 by whatever, it doesn't matter. Spell base parent. Width 700. Height big. I guess we can make it that big. 350. Well, it's not a UI day. Fixing the UI is future me's problem. So we'll just go 700 by 350. Perfectly a 2:1 ratio. Okay, so we have a spell base. Now, what do we want to do? We want to assign this spell base to our thing that we were working on just a minute ago. Jeez Louise. Base parent. That's what we want. We're going to assign this right there. Oh. Oh. Okay. We have our base parent. That's what matters. Now we can test our script. If everything goes right, we should see a debug that says base checking and nothing else because we haven't implemented the spell yet. And nothing happened. What if I target? There it goes. Base checking. So for some reason it didn't check the base in the start method, but it did do it when we called it in. The whatchamacallit. Geez, as you can tell by my limited vocabulary at the moment, I have essentially fallen asleep. So, I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and have a lovely day.